Yes, me too, me too. All right, we have version 2 to look over this evening. I know I have a number of things to do. I wanted to start by reminding all of us here this evening that our mission statement for the year, which is the Rollinsford School Board in collaboration with school and town will continue to provide for quality education while pursuing operating cost reductions at RGS. And then to continue with that, I want to say that I believe that our administrators, our educational experts have done a very good job last year and this year in looking for and finding the savings that we asked them to do. We haven't made their lives easy, but they've found ways to do it, and they have assured us over and over again that the educational excellence has not been impacted. And that's very, very good. I think it's now time for the board to make sure that we're holding up sort of our end of that deal as well, so as we go forward. So with that, we'll get started on questions, comments, things to talk about. Tom, there's things that you wanted to, or do you want me to just go first? Well, yeah, all right, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I'm not going to go page by page like we did last time. I'm just going to explain the difference between version 1 and version 2. I'm just going to just bullet point that, okay? The difference between version 1 and version 2 are track changes. They were staff that submitted track changes.
Yes.
So that was not accounted for on the first version because they had a deadline of November 1st.
Yep.
And so that's included in version 2. There has been some changes in the need for paraprofessional staffing. So version 1 indicated that there were a reduction of 2 paraprofessionals based on the changes that has occurred. It went from 2 to 1. We need to add half-time persons current year that we're in, 16-17, and that has been brought forward to next year, 17-18. And we've also had to increase our current staff hours. So between the half-time person and the increase of hours, it equates to a whole person.
Yeah, we're still talking about next year at this point?
Yeah.
Let's not confuse us with the 2 years.
The increase of the half-time staff person is for next year only.
Okay.
The increase in hours will reflect next year, but we are making some hour adjustments this year.
Okay, we can talk about those.
Yeah. So the real increase, based on our needs and our current influx of, we've had a number of students move in who have services, and we're at the max of what we can provide, and we have a small number of kids that are in sort of what we call the pipeline of going through a referral process. And so if even half of those end up needing services, we need some extra. So that's the help for next year, the half-time person.
Okay.
Okay? Half-time aide.
Okay.
It's not a teacher, it's a half-time special ed aide.
That's what they're trying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now I'll have more specific questions. Just continue going through.
The other change between 1 and 2 is originally we estimated the health insurance fee at 7%, and the effective rate, which includes the union holiday, is 3%.
That's the health insurance.
That's the health insurance. So we use the effective rate, which is a 3% increase, so that was adjusted on version 1. We also, board's directive was to include the after-school activities, transportation for the middle and high school to Marshwood. That's included in version 2. And the other change in version 2 is we were in the interim of hiring a clerical staff person. So in version 2, that individual is also receiving a 2% increase as the other as the custodians are. And that individual, that position originally has been at 260 days a year. It has been reduced to 210. So at this point in time, That's the changes from the document that you received this week. Since then, we have other changes that have occurred, so there will be a version 3, but we're here to discuss version 2, and then at the end of that discussion, we'll talk about what changed for version 3.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, so as we go through this budget, we should be aware that the Marshwood tuition increase for the budget we're working on is 3.4%. It's twice what it was last year. You know, it was, I'm sorry, twice what it was for this year, for this current year's budget. Now, it was 1.7% between the first year and the second year. Now between the second year and the third year, which is the budget we're talking about, the third year, it is now 3.4% increase. That's probably due to this decrease in state, some state funding that they have.
Okay.
Hopefully some of that's being reinstated. But we don't know. But this is, and the increase for the Somersworth students is 3% by contract.
Okay, yeah, that's what
Just so people are aware of that, and the SPED increase is similar, again, for Somersworth, it's 3% by contract for the SPED increase above that, and for Marshwood, it is for services, obviously for a la carte services, but it's over 4% increase for the SPED services.
And does that also have to do with the percentage of?
I don't know that. I think that's due to direct cost. They charge us, if they charge us $100 an hour, now they're charging us $104 an hour. I mean, it's more like that. And I took an average across all the different services. Some went up very high, some went low, so just let me know.
And it might be, part of that might be if they settle, I think they settled the contract last year, so it might be contractual raises, because remember, we would get for the
For the
providers.
providers, right, yeah.
Sure.
Because some of the grades do.
Sorry, y'all.
I know, too. I see you.
Parent-teacher conference, and they were ladies live.
All right, so those are sort of some general things, and now we can go through any people with specifics.
I had a question, which I think I answered in my mind, but I noticed that in the Marshwood budgets, we have information for salaries and benefits in there. Is that for like the liaison type people? Is that, okay? That's
Exactly right.
okay. At first
It's for that person we slice and dice
Yeah, got it, okay.
for special education.
Well, I was driving to work this morning, and I was like, oh, I bet that's what.
As
Okay.
well as 504.
Oh, that's right. It's,
What's that?
So the guidance does 504 plans over there, so a percentage of time is there doing that, so we proportion the billing.
just on the big walkthrough piece on the sort of page 3 of 6. I was a little confused under the special ed, halfway down the page. There's a increase due to staff changes. One is elimination of one paraprofessional. It was 2 before this. Now we're eliminating one position. That's one of the changes. And then one Title I tutor partly funded. Are we eliminating or adding that? I'm not adding. We're adding. Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay. So we're adding that. Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure I knew what that was.
And that's the same as it was in version 1. That's the same.
Yes, I just wasn't sure whether, I just
Okay.
didn't know which one was
It
added.
didn't change from
Yeah.
version 1, the two, the Title I tutor did not change, that's the same as in version 1.
And this is just, I'm under maintenance on page 5 of that. What is an auto scrubber? Does anyone know? Just curious. Stick here.
It's a machine we use to wash the floors.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I wasn't sure. I was picturing little tiny cars going through a little scrubber or something. Okay. Four.
Oh, that's another place. Yeah, but we should talk about the change.
We will on version 3, so that's a change in version 3.
Do you want to give them a heads up now?
It's up to you, you want to talk about it? There's a change in this thing, it's going to be reflected in version 3. That's why, what do you want to do?
Well, we should probably know a little bit. If it's going to change costs a lot, I mean, we better.
Well, there's, speak to it?
Yeah, so we've been looking at the main building bathrooms, and we thought we would do that under the operating budget. Well, the final numbers came in, and it's a little bit more than we thought it would be a $10,000 project. It's actually going to be a $27,500 project. So,
Is this all the bathrooms? I mean, the adult nurses and the,
No, that's
Boys and
just,
girls?
this is just the boys and girls
okay,
bathroom
it's downstairs.
downstairs, yes. That's totally
Redoing.
renovating,
Completely renovated.
yes.
completely renovating, new toilets, new, taking 2 toilets out, putting urinals in the boys' room. All new toilets, all the sinks, piping, faucets, all fixtures. Fixtures will be hands-free, so they'll be hand-free fixtures as opposed to regular flush. We have a definite problem with consistency of using the flush.
All right, and, all right, so continue.
So that, in essence, is going to reduce this maintenance, repairs by about $10,000. But this is going to add a warrant article on the other end of life, because it's a $27,500 project. So that'll become a warrant article, but we'll be taking $10,000. So the maintenance repair line will go to $45,000.
And that will be reflected in version 3.
Yeah. So under, I forgot where the warrants are, we'll add that.
Well, yeah, we don't have any yet. I mean,
Well,
it's
it's
due.
I did a
We
special,
still-
I did a
yeah,
sheet at the
yeah,
beginning,
it's in your-
it's in your packet of what
Yeah.
the suggested warrant articles are.
Yeah, okay, and the reason, well, we can talk about the reason for this, now that we have a line to pass there, okay. All right,
Oh, and then the storage shed, the final numbers are in, and that's $32,000. Oh, that was listed somewhere.
It's listed in the CIP.
yes, it's in that list, which I,
Okay.
And then the bids,
Well, this is quotes now, and if it passes as a warrant, then we'd go out.
It was 20,000 on the initial thing on the warrant, it was 20,000. And that will then be changed to 32,000.
so it went up?
Yes.
so you get someone to provide a quote. And then once it's determined to pass, go forward with it, that's.
Then we'll go out, yeah, then we'll put it out
So
there.
you've got an actual quote for.
Correct, you got a, Dick got a
As
quote.
I've combined the numbers, I've got from 3 different, one's the building, one's putting it together, one's the site work, one's the concrete work, which are all subcontractors, and the one who's actually acting as the general contractor, subcontracting everything out.
And the total on that was?
$32,015.
And what was the size of that shed?
30 foot by 30 foot.
All right,
Sorry, but I just thought we should have that information.
So I will revise this warrant article sheet, and then put version 3.
so that's not the PE storage shed or the software, the softball shed repair. It's neither of those things, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, this is in addition,
It's a new shed.
the whole bigger,
Yes, basically to get a lot of the stuff out of the attic, what really should be.
Oh, so we had originally 20,000 in the as a warrant article. So you added 32, so it's really 52?
No.
no,
Oh, okay.
32
So it's
total.
lower. That's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure.
Are we fixing up the other sheds? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
they're under-
We're going to get rid of 2.
Excuse me,
We
sorry.
will get rid of 2 of the sheds,
Okay.
which is the one that's right outside of the door
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And then there's one outside of the kindergarten, to be that one is beyond repair. The other 2 is out by the ball fields, and they're repairable. One needs a roof, the other one just needs some TLC, some paint.
And what's the cost for that? Well, I see the total, but I need to scroll through.
What are you looking at?
The 2 sheds repair.
Yeah, they're totaled, we didn't,
I mean, is it, can you ballpark Oh, okay.
So
Got it. All right, cool.
it's relatively inexpensive, it's not like we
The materials.
Thank you.
But right now we store equipment up in the attic that's used for,
not so much, there's a lot of different pieces of, I don't know if you want to call it stuff. There's books up there, there's,
When are you back in here for now?
yes, we've got, in the budget for this year, we've got 2 dumpsters that we're going to purge quite a bit of the stuff up there. Plus, we don't have a real safe way to get there, that's part of the problem.
And I think part of our discussion will be, whether or not that can wait.
Yeah,
And that will be something that we'll be talking about in a few minutes.
Well, yeah, and I was also thinking, that's a big shed, like, do we need to repair the other two? Is kind of why I was asking, like, do we just get rid of all the other sheds? I don't know how much space we need there, so if it's cheap enough to repair them, just get rid of them.
Yeah, so we'll be having some more discussions on that as we go forward with the ethics here, okay? Just a quick thing, also on the repair and maintenance line, there's the east side annex window, the front steps, and the door flashing on the north and south door. Can you hear me, Dick? I know my
I
back
can
is-
hear you.
Okay. I know the door flashing on the north and south doors might be included.
North and south?
Yeah, north and
Okay,
south,
thank you.
sorry, yeah, north and south doors. Those doors are specifically called out in the historical assessment that's been done. And so, one of the things we're gonna need to do, I think, on all 3 of those items, and I think the front steps have been too, possibly the flagpole, I'm not sure, I'm not sure that's historical. But the others, we need to just double check, I believe the assessment is almost done. I need to check in with them, because they will have information. First of all, Peter Michaud will be checking on whether or not, if we actually put money into things now, if we can use it as our match later on, so that's really important to know. So I'm just bringing that up now, so that we don't lose sight of it, that the building is an historical building. It might be good for us to keep track of all these things in a certain way, so. Okay. All right, people jump in, or do you, feel the need? Okay. Getting into the actual Rollinsford budget then, on the Rollinsford grade school budget on page 2 of 9. So I see the new line with the added 50% aid, but then we're still eliminating 2 paraprofessionals. The next line down, where it's, the note says it's a reduction based on elimination of 2 paraprofessionals. Okay. So
so it's 1.
Okay, but that is still the proper amount for the reduction, though?
Yes, the
Okay.
amounts are correct, yes.
Okay,
It's just, I didn't change the words.
this is one.
yeah.
Yeah. Just-
I went through them side by side and tried not to ask the same questions over again. So the other thing I see is, again, now on page 6. I think I know the answer. I noticed that there were jumps in the health premiums between version 1 and 2 for
Because it
for the
was a
principal.
change, it was a change.
Because it was a change in it.
Yeah, change.
And that's what I realized had to be the case, okay.
Qualifying event, yes.
And so I have a question, are non-union, are our staff members on a consumer-driven health plan now, or are they on the school plan?
It all depends on what happens with negotiation.
No, I mean the non-union.
It has to be all or none.
Oh, in the entire building? Oh, I didn't realize that, okay, thank you. Okay? I noticed on the, it looked like the budgeted health and retirement for the custodial care, for some reason it looked low to me. And I'm not sure why, I'm on page 7 now, under the custodial services. And the change had been that it was going to be 2 half-time people, so that was for this current year. And now I see that we've gone down from that, and now we have, because it's one
Yes, it's one full-time,
full-time person.
and because it's full-time, they get retirement.
Yep,
And then there's a substitute.
yeah, but it's gone, but basically,
The amount's gone
the
down.
budget for this year, I'm sorry, I'm looking at current year's budget, not next year's budget. Okay, so then we had to make up for, rather than a full-time person. I think I've got it.
You're absolutely correct.
That's right. Everyone understand that? Yeah. In the regular transportation, again, for, Rollinsford grade school, so I'm on page 8. And now I'm trying to see what it is.
Okay, so I think I know what your question is going to be on page 8, where you see a negative 7,439, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I don't think that accurately reflects the entire kindergarten bus.
No, because it's
Savings?
prorated. I took the amount and prorated between,
But the kindergarten bus is only for Rollinsford grade school.
I understand that, but I took the total amount.
All right, so you just
So
took
this
the
is-
total and
this is-
prorated it.
yeah, that's right.
Okay, because as we get closer to presenting this to the budget committee in the town, I would like it to reflect the entire savings of the kindergarten bus run, to reflect in Rollinsford grade school only, not in Marshwood or, not in Marshwood Middle or High School. Because it is a savings just to Rollinsford grade school, I believe.
Yes.
I mean, I understand what you did, I understand what you did, and we can talk about that later, now that I understand that you spread it out, and we can talk about that later.
I mean, I think that you look at the total. Yeah, I mean, yes, and the total, I mean, yeah, anyway, we'll talk about that later, about how, we can talk about that later, come back to it as we move along, because we're moving along here. Okay, so that's one, and then there's not a lot. We still do not have any contingency for getting more students in the high school or the middle school for Marshwood. Right now, we're budgeting for what we have today and the 6th grade, we're budgeting exactly what we expect it to be based on our current enrollment. So just letting us all know that. Because I think we might want to.
Yes. Stabilize.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to revise this.
We've
I
had,
put the December 1st. I'm going to revise it based on December 1st.
yeah, we've had some more ins, but we've had some outs. So we've had a few ins just recently.
To the high school.
Middle and high, yeah.
And they're not reflected in our accounts even?
No,
This
because they're not,
month's counts?
well,
Because they in the middle.
Okay, because it looks very, because the counts look very close.
they are very close. Next month will show an increase.
Okay.
What we've tried to do, because part of what gets us bogged down is we get notification, but then proof of residency takes a while. So until I have everything, we're not adding it, because too many things happen in between time. So once I have every piece of paper in my hand, then we're adding it.
Okay.
Well, and based on what the direction the board gives, if you so, if you want to add some contingency in there, then we will give you the actual, plus we'll show if it's how many
Okay.
contingency, if that's the direction you have. So
Yeah.
it will be reflected in version 3.
Okay. All right, and the only, go ahead.
I was just saying, I almost think we have to. Have
Yeah.
some.
We'll sort of talk big picture in a minute after we, what else we have.
3 have done it. Just the co-curricular, I don't know if that is in the past paid for intramural sports for Rollinsford?
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something we're eliminating or not doing anymore, because so far I haven't I've been aware of any this year, and I didn't know if, because, we've gone down to 50%.
Yeah, no, I believe it's
So we spent,
still happening.
we already spent half of it.
For this
Yeah.
year?
Oh, I'm sorry, this is not, I gotta look at your, I'm looking at your budget.
We did it, nothing yet.
Yeah, so we haven't had any. but
So
I-
I'll check with Kate, but, I'll check with Kate. I don't,
She usually notifies us at the end of the season. We pay it at the end of the season.
Right, they just haven't had any yet this year
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
Yep.
My kids are pretty much all over that, so.
yeah, I'll check with her.
Quick question on the equipment increase. Custodial equipment decrease on 6.
Yeah, that's the very first, the walk, the big, the overview.
So you're down from 14, the actual or total budget now is 2,000. That was down. 24, down to 1,400.
Coming down this, in the next budget season. We're the past
Oh,
couple of
he's on-
years,
he's
we
on
picked
page
up a lot of new equipment.
It's top, very top.
I don't foresee us
Page
needing
6
a
is
lot,
on.
too much more new equipment.
I have a question. Oh, yeah. Second line, it's on 6 of 6. Again, equipment maintenance, upkeep of machinery decrease based on estimated services. So, what equipment are we talking about there? I mean, it's not custodial equipment, but is there something else that would pertain to?
It may be, it could be parts of a boiler, you have some roof fans, some exhaust fans, things of that nature, that would be equipment that we would use.
I'm just wondering why we would decrease that line. I mean, it seems to me that,
We're starting to replace stuff as opposed to repair.
Yeah.
So we replace this lift, we have another lift that's going to start, that's coming actually Monday. Then we'll have the third lift, which with proper preventive maintenance every year, like these are 25 years old, and with proper maintenance, we'll get them 25 years old.
absolutely, no, I agree.
So it doesn't cost as much to,
But we come across a lot of unexpected stuff. And I think, it's not a lot of money, to have, to make sure that we've got the funds in place, just in case you need it, if you come across something, and it does need to be replaced or repaired. I'm just wondering, because it seems to me that it was almost a token amount to increase it. Because if you do come across something, you need to fix it right away, I mean, it's there, it's not like it's funds available.
I'll be happy to have you increase it if you'd like to. I mean,
But on the previous page, what he's saying is that they're putting a lot of new things in.
I absolutely,
yeah.
I mean, it's just that, stuff comes up.
And I understand what you're saying, exactly this year happened this week, we had a slide out on the playground break in the middle. I just got a price for that, that's $500 some odd dollars, maybe it was $700 to replace that one. That's something you don't budget for.
Basketball.
I just think that it's not a lot of money, but it's something that
Well, let's
could be used, and I just think it's.
keep it in mind, and we'll talk about it when we go to talk about the whole
I
thing.
try to be very frugal with your money.
It's appreciated. Other? done, as soon as we're done with specific questions, we'll do sort of an overview of where we are right now. All right, so if we're done with specifics, we can come up with more specifics, I'm sure, as we go along. I want to point a few things out. I've been attending budget committee meetings now for 2 years in a row. I'm a lot more well-versed on the process of how our tax rates get set. So all of us received our tax bills last week, I believe. And it was interesting because it was the budget we voted on in March. Is the tax bill that we just saw. We haven't seen it before in town. So our warrant articles, all that stuff is what we're seeing in there. It's what we're seeing in that tax bill. And one of the things I did not know is that the select board works with the DRA to set the full tax rate. So if you looked at it closely, any of us on the school board, we noted, you probably noted, that the school's portion of the town's entire tax of the town is 5 times what the town is the town's tax rate. 5 times what the town's tax rate is. So this is just sort of setting the idea, but I'm beginning to understand why people in town talk about the school in certain ways. And so we have to do a really good job of making sure we're watching over the money in the town. I know Tom doesn't necessarily agree, he'll get his chance to say his things, but I do know this. The select board, there has not been a full-time employee in the town other than the teachers who have received dental insurance. So, and it would, you know what it would cost the town to give them dental insurance? $4,000 a year, and the town has not done it. They are going to try to do it this year, but we have to put it in perspective. It's $4,000, and they haven't felt they can pay for it. So I think we have to be really careful as we go forward. And beyond that, I know that we've really asked our administrators to step up, and our educators here to step up, and they've done it. They've done an amazing job saving money, looking at the operating costs, and really getting it down to where it needs to be. And I think we have to be careful that we don't take that money and use it in a way that it's like, well, thanks for saving us all that money, now we're just going to spend it over here and do something else with it. I think we have to think of the town. I think we have to think of the people who are sacrificing to sort of do this for us. So I have some sort of specific suggestions as we go forward on that. But that's basically, if we sort of, so we did say that we'd work more with the town, and I think going forward, we might even try to have some meetings with the select board and stuff when they work on the town budget. Maybe next year we can get into the budget process earlier, and maybe have at least one joint meeting with them or something, to get a sense for where it all sits within the town. We have an awesome responsibility with it. We're rather large, and I know that Marie was very good about sending out the information on this. This is she sent out the tax rate, she sent everything out, so it was very interesting to see it. But one of the things I noticed in there, and I would like to get an answer to this if you can, is that all the way at the bottom of page 4, if any of you have this handy, this is so we vote, the town voted to allow us to take up to 2.5% of our budget and with leftover money, and to put that in sort of an emergency into a, what's it called? It's called a unassigned general funds, essentially. It becomes retained some unassigned general funds, so we can have 2.5. So we could have, if with 2.5% of our budget would have been 121,000, a little bit more. It actually ended up being about 113,000. So we have 113,000 right now sitting in that unassigned general funds balance, we'll call it right now. And it says here, this retained fund balance is not cumulative, but also that it can be used to for emergencies, but also to reduce the tax rate, which I found very interesting, because what I also learned during the select board process working with the DRA is that they try very hard to not have a big jump in the whole town's budget. And so the school ended up spending a lot of money, mostly in Marshall, essentially. But it doesn't matter, it made the tax rate go up. And so what the town did was take the town's fund balance, the school isn't allowed to have a fund balance, the town is allowed to have a fund balance. They took $200,000 and reduced it so that the tax rate would be $27 and something and not $28 and something. So, I mean, that's very nice because they don't want to see, they want to try to keep things even. And that should be our job too, I think, is to try to keep things even if there aren't big jumps back and forth. So that's just putting that out there because these are things I'm learning and it takes a long time. It just takes forever, as we all know, to learn some of these things.
So that's the fund that we have to have nothing left in our budget, and we have to go to get special permission from the town to use that money, correct?
I believe so. This is why, I asked Jenny to come prepared tonight to kind of explain a little bit about this to us because, you know, and
That's what so if you remember, we gave you, it was in the last board packet, the attorney write-up regarding exactly that. So let's say it was April and we were close to the end of our budget, or May, you know, and we had expended most of the budget. And so let's say at that point in time, we had $100,000 left. It had encumbered what we needed and our obligations, and God forbid, the roof falls apart. So now, we either end school in May, or we have to do something to fix the roof. So that would be an opportunity to use that, because if you look at what's left, we've only got 100,000, and it's going to be 400,000 to fix the roof, then that would be an opportunity where we could have a special meeting and say, look, we're in big trouble here, we would like to continue, you know, we still have another month and a half of school, and that would be an opportunity to use those dollars. What happens in town budgets as opposed to, what happens in school budgets as opposed to town budgets, towns and municipalities have a general fund. So whatever isn't expended gets put into that general fund. For us, when June 30th hits, we take whatever dollars we have left in our pot and it goes back to the general fund. We don't have any, that's right, so there's no rainy day fund. So if we had 100,000 left at the end of this school year, we don't get to hold on to that 100,000 and say, okay, now, you know, instead of having to except for this fund. So this was a way to even the playing field for towns, because municipalities have that option, but it comes with such restrictions, and the fact that you've got to spend down your entire appropriation.
so that's something to keep it, go ahead. Kim.
Yeah, and you indicated, and I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right, that anything that's encumbered counts towards us having spent our budget.
Correct, so like, because that would be our obligation.
Right.
So we couldn't say, well, in May, we encumbered the rest of teacher salaries, oh, we need to now use that
Right.
because
Right.
we've contractually obligated the district for those dollars.
Right.
So that, you know, anything that's a contractual obligation, we own. You know, we can't say,
Yeah.
Marshwood, we're not paying you in June because our roof just collapsed and we're going to use those dollars. We're contractually obligated.
So, to piggyback on what everything said, the reason why we were able to take that 113,000 this year is because we had it.
Right,
At the
right,
end of this-
no, I understand that.
I'm just saying, at the end of this year, when we closed the books, we had approximately $194,000.
You're right.
And if we didn't have $194,000, we couldn't do it. It's only,
Right.
and so that money has already been raised by taxes. It's what's left over in appropriations for that prior year.
Right.
So they're not raising taxes already, it's already been done. So what happened this year, 16, we had 194. The town obligated to use, if there's any money left of those funds, put $25,000 in each of the trust funds. So you went from 194 to 50. So if you only had 55, you only would take 50, and then $5,000 would go into that fund. So this year, so what happened was, you had 194,000, you had $50,000 to go to trust, that's 144. And then the solicitor will out saying, oh, this year was 113, it's based on the formula that DRA sets and the 2.5% assessment. So this year, Wallingford Grade School or Wellington School District had that money. So that was what was put into the fund. That was put into that. If you didn't have it, it wouldn't go.
And the balance,
Goes back.
It goes, actually, $30,000 of that was used to reduce taxes.
Oh, it was 194.
So but I don't know how does that work? How
How
does
is
it
it
reduce
do
taxes?
we have to get the same type of permission from the town to use it to reduce taxes?
Well, that's the question,
Use it for emergency?
It's the reducing taxes part that I don't understand. How does that work? I mean,
That happened through,
Through the DRA and the town.
So,
Yes.
but why did they take 30,000 of it?
Because that's the remainder of the 190.
Yeah, I know, I know
So
that.
if you, so that's the difference.
Okay, but it also says that 113 can be used to reduce taxes. How and when? That's the part that, it says it.
Do we have to go to the town and get the special permission, just like if the roof caved? Do we-
Because not everybody has, not every community has that choice.
no, but that's not the question. The question
Yeah.
is,
What's the vehicle to
So-
get that?
so-
vehicle?
so the vehicle, so, yeah, and so I'm not sure, that's an answer we'll have to find, because I'm not sure that that's what it can be used for. I think, Judy, what happened is the difference from that 194, that 30,000 was left. So that's why they could, so it went back to the general fund.
Our 2 point whatever percent
That's right.
first, and whatever was left over went back to the general fund and use taxes.
Yeah, but I mean,
I know that it says it, but I don't,
so, but it's really confusing to me, because it says that it can be
Yeah.
used.
But
But
it-
it's this,
but I think,
and it's the
I
last
think,
page, and it's the last paragraph, right there in the middle of it, it says, to be
So-
used as a revenue source to reduce the tax, or
So
to
I
be
think-
used as a revenue.
so we'll ask, I'll have Marie check with the DRA, because I think that's the
Because
explanation.
otherwise, where does it go? Where does the 130,000 go at the end of this year?
It goes back.
But the full 113,000 goes
Correct.
back. So it goes back then to the fund balance in the town.
Correct.
Town-
Because
Oh,
every
yeah.
year,
Oh,
it
it's not
depends on what
cumulative.
you,
We only get that,
If
it's
you don't
one
use
shot.
it,
it goes back,
to
yeah.
town. And then they recalculate the 2.5% assessment, so maybe next year it's only 10.
it depends on what we have left.
And the assessment.
So if we don't use it in May, we should make sure that we ask how much it's worth taxes, is that the point?
Well, I think the point is, it goes back into the general fund, and the select folks are in charge of the town's general
Here's
fund.
my guess, it's sitting in the general fund right now. I
Yeah.
don't know where it is. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
that's where
it's not
it's
in
They
the
have
town.
to have
Why
it.
don't we check with the select board?
No, Judy's right, it's sitting in the general fund, because it's not, it needs
It's
to be,
obligated.
it's
Why don't we check with
obligated.
the select board as to how how the whole process works, what's done to initiate it.
They don't know about the school board. They didn't even know that the school had given them $30,000. They had no idea.
Somebody managed.
So if you do the 30 plus 50 is 8,
This is
plus the
DRA.
113. that's 194.
Yeah, this is the form,
Let's have one, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, yep.
One at a time.
this is the form that explains what happened. It comes from the Department of Revenue. It's reviewed through us, through the school, Jenny signed off, and it was based on what the community voted. When they set the tax rate, as you said, they set the select board. This is what, I don't know if the town had remaining, this is the town, if they had anything, this is what you have left. And this is the school portion. How do you want to do that? Because the town is allowed to put some money in their trust, and there's a percentage guideline of what the percentages that the town could put in. I think it's from 4 to 6, and then 7 to 10, and up to 17%. They're allowed to keep in a fund balance to use for people default on their taxes or whatever. They need money, they need cash flow money, that's what they use that for. So so this form is generated from the Department of Revenue. Then it sits down with the selectmen, and then they decide. And then they decide, well, we want to use that $30,000 to reduce the tax rate. Or they may say, we want to put it in some kind of fund
Right.
too.
Can I back you up one one second. So the Department of Revenue sits down with the select board and they determine that $30,000?
But, well, but not specifically that thirty
Well, no,
thousand.
I
They
mean,
just
this
have a
one,
bucket
this
of money.
time.
But so let's do the math back.
Well, I mean, look, I don't think we ever spent a lot of time
No,
on
no,
this, right?
but I think here's where it fits what you asked. So we had $194,000 left in our budget. Take the 2 warrant out, the 50. Okay, so that now leaves us 144. Take the 113 away from that, you have 30 left. So in essence, there you go. And the town used it to reduce the rate.
So the town, but that 113 is available to us. They can't have used that.
Correct.
They
Because
probably
of
can't
this.
use it until next year.
Correct.
Right, they can't use it till the end of this tax.
Correct.
Okay,
Now,
that makes sense.
So if you follow the map, now, if we didn't have this, so let's say we didn't have this put aside. So now let's do the math this way. We had 194, you take the 50 out, we would have returned to the town $144,000. They're privy to do with it as they wish.
Not us.
There is no.
Not us, not us. We have
Okay, so what
no,
did you just say from that? You said we did the 113.
well, we,
That's what happens.
that's sort of ours in an emergency.
That's the
I
warrant.
guess, I think I'm understanding it now, okay.
Does that make
And-
sense?
Yes, and whatever we returned last year, which I believe was not as much as
No, it was
anything.
very little.
It was very, very little. We know that the town, they used that money to reduce the tax bill that we just received.
There's no leftover. I mean, that's really what it comes down
Okay.
to. Every
I
dollar
think that
is
helps.
accounted for, so that we,
Is that-
after all those expenses and after all the
Questioning how it is that the select board doesn't know that $30,000 came from the school. That's like, I get all the math.
Yeah,
But like, I mean, what if for some reason we gave them $300,000 and they don't know that's true? They get that.
They get that when they send in taxes.
So they should know that.
Yes, this is the,
Because I think that's an important thing for the town to know is that
I think
if
it,
it went back from the school, we,
Yep.
did.
I think it is, and I think that when, and again, as we're all learning, it's a very new select board.
Yeah.
They're all learning too.
That's fine.
So we're getting there.
Does that help though better
I
explain?
think so, I think, so this 113 is not gonna disappear, I wonder what happens, anyway, but let's not belabor it, that's what we do. I think we know the answer now.
So the
And if we
good
don't-
news is we have it if we have an emergency. The not so good news is we don't have flexibility with it.
Right,
That, I mean, it really is,
But if there is a real emergency, there is not going to be any delay. I mean, things will move.
Well,
That's
you-
what it's for. It's
that's right.
earmarked for
We'd have to
emergency.
petition the DOE and explain our
Do we have
emergency.
to have a warrant? I mean, does that have to go to vote?
No, we just have to have a special meeting so folks know that we're using it. And we, on our end, would have to petition the Department of Education to say, this is what we've done with the dollars based on our
now
emergency.
let's flip that, okay? Let's say we didn't have this $113,000 or whatever, we didn't have $100,000 outside, and a roof fell. We'd have to have an emergency meeting to raise the tax, to.
Cover
pay-
the cost.
So you have to,
Which is why you have money there.
yes, right, so you have to get the money you need to fix it. So you have to have a special meeting, and the community would have to vote to increase their taxes because they didn't have this money set aside. And that was the reason why this was done for schools, because schools didn't have that opportunity for the towns to.
well, now I understand it an awful lot better, thank you.
Good.
And it'll take
So
time.
could it be used if all of a sudden we had 20 kids move in to go to Marshall High School or middle school?
Only if we run our budget all the way
We
ahead.
had, if we,
And this year, it's not apt to happen this year because we had a teacher position that we didn't fill. So we're hoping it doesn't happen this year.
right, no, I mean,
But
not
yeah,
that we
but
want
yes,
to,
you're right, but
but that's, I guess,
if
just
enough
curious.
kids or enough special needs kids moved in, yeah, I think we could. But I think we'd have to expend everything else first, including our trust funds,
That
our
would be-
trust funds, so.
Well,
Right.
the trust funds have to be only used
For the-
Well, I mean special ed, like if we had.
Yeah, we had a special-
We
yes.
had like 6 special ed out
Yeah.
of
District.
district placements, I mean, suddenly would have to. All right,
So we're
Excellent.
going to be discussing
let's do it right now. We only have about 10 minutes left, so.
Can I tell you the new changes for?
Oh, yes.
So version On Monday, the SAU board voted what the new assessment is going to be. So the Rollinsford portion is $9,820. So that will be an increase to the appropriation. We have good news. Today, we received Primex's property liability and workers' comp. If you remember, we signed a massive guarantee of Primex. Well, the property liability came in at 3.4%. So that's really this flip. I mean, it's not a lot. It's a big difference. And workers' comp came in at 4.1. So that will be reflected in the next version 3. The $10,000 reduction that we just talked about in maintenance is going to be, that's going to decrease the appropriation because we're going from $55,000 to $45,000.
It'll pay for the SAU.
There you go.
And the other good news is, Rollinsford notified again this week that Rollinsford is getting an additional $145,709 in adequacy. That's a lot.
That's 144?
145.
Approximately $145,000 more in revenue. So that is great news.
And how, yeah,
How does that happen?
So the state provides dollars for students, so to help offset the per pupil cost. It by no means covers a per pupil cost, but, so the state has set a per pupil cost of $3,600. And then a third grader isn't on reading level, proficient reading level by third grade, you get some dollars. If a student has free and reduced lunch, you get some dollars. If a student is ELL, you get some dollars. If a student is special ed, you get some dollars. So you take all of those and it's a cost, and because we had an increase in enrollment from, so adequacy is 2 years back. So 2 years ago, we had a big drop. From that, we've had an increase from that huge drop. That's what got us the extra dollars.
It is.
Yeah, it's a huge amount.
so what's our, is that all you have to tell us?
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
And what's the net
okay, so at this point in time, the net change that includes the appropriations and the additional revenue, the decrease of 95, I'm going to say approximately $95,000.
So at the one we're looking at now, it puts us at a decrease of, number 1,000 because we're at 11.
Because I'm at 11 to the good.
That's really fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really, that's really fantastic. So what do we think about contingency for extra students? I was thinking somewhere around 3 to 5, but again, maybe we need to wait and see if we get well, well, what we've heard so far.
I would do 3, just 3, and
It
doesn't matter where you
It
place
doesn't
it.
matter if it's middle or high school, it doesn't matter,
No.
it's the same cost. What do you think? You guys are saying 3?
I'm saying 3, you think more?
I'm
I was saying 3 to 5. More. So we're talking essentially about $10,000. The rate next year is going to be over $10,000. So I'm still using 10,000 as the basis, because it's just a little bit over. But,
in my brain, my immediate reaction was 5, but I don't, 4, yeah, I mean,
so why don't we build in 4? So that would be an increase of about $40,000. That takes away half of our.
Yeah.
how many do you think you've already seen so far this
It's been
year?
tough. Well, this year it's been tough because we've had some leave and some come, so it's been almost
flat so far.
flat. Yeah.
So far it's been flat, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So, we, like I said, some come, some go, so.
So maybe,
I don't think.
because the other things I think we need to look at, well, we won't know, but I mean, if we really get an influx of students, we're also gonna have to look at maybe filling a teacher position here, we don't know.
I'm fine with it.
Flat, student-wise or flat cost-wise? Because it's per diem kind of a thing. right?
Yeah, well,
About?
flat student-wise.
Okay.
Yeah, student-wise, right, cost-wise, we don't,
So
that's a good
cost-wise,
point.
do we think we're on the?
I think we're okay, I think that's equal as well.
Okay.
Because, so if you just did a hypothetical, for example, say we had a student who had some special ed services leave, but 2 came in, then we're almost covering.
Okay, got
You
it.
know, this is an excellent point, because when I look at the sped cost compared to our regular tuition, I figured they're about a third. So essentially, you know, in general,
But the numbers.
it's about what it stays at. So if we say 3 and we get 2 students, that's gonna work out perfectly. If we say 4 and we get 3 students, it might work. I mean, I don't know, so it's a tough one, right? I think 3 is the least I would do.
Yeah, I wouldn't do
Yeah, I
anything
think
less
we have to
than
do
3.
it.
So try to build that in.
So,
So build that in for
on
version 3.
version 3, we're going to adjust the enrollment based on December 1st. So there is, we know we do have.
Yeah, we have some
Yes.
changes.
All right, so we know we have changes.
And then
it's
plus, we're already going up a little bit.
We
We're
are.
gonna add
But
that.
that's going to be actual,
Yeah, that's
based
gonna
on
be
actual time.
Yeah.
Because last year we adjusted it 2 before we worked in the budget. And then you want me to add 3 more besides that?
Yes, and as a line of contingency. for-
Absolutely.
for,
To be determined.
To be determined, but. I mean, and the other thing, I had asked Marie to make sure that the late bus was in there as a separate line item, because, I mean, I know we're gonna talk about it in January for the rest of this year, but our ridership, since it's renewed, has been an average of 6 students a day. We are no longer being subsidized. It is costing $140 a day. So it is costing each child, it is costing us $23 to get each child delivered to their home. That's a lot of money. And I just think we need to think about it. We need to think about it.
And there was no chance they were gonna go back to this kind of rate, is that right?
No, we tried.
Yeah, I know you were.
We tried lots of,
Obviously, I'm not talking about this year, but for next year, I would suggest that we take it out of the budget, that we don't put it in, give parents plenty of warning to work something out. Perhaps think about making it a warrant article, let the town decide if it wants to pay to deliver the kids to their houses. I mean, you know, let it play out in the town, rather than us making the decision with the townspeople's money for that. I mean, it has its pros and cons, obviously.
I was like, Tom wants to open up a bus company, a little van.
I mean, I'm, you know, Brian uses it. It's not like my family isn't impacted by it. But I really thought after the last meeting, we were going to see, based on the discussions, we were going to see an increase in ridership. But that's not to say, though, that, you know, the folks
Good evening,
that,
everyone. Pardon the interruption. We want to thank you for participating in the student-led conference this evening. Your participation and input is greatly appreciated. The conference is now over. Please have a good evening. Thanks and good night.
I actually thought it would increase, but, you know, for the folks that are using it, yeah, I've been looking at those numbers too. A couple days are heavier than others. I don't know, I think that the town really needs to decide. I think it's a good idea to put it as a warrant article. What if it doesn't pass? Then what do we tell those parents? We offered this, you know, we said we were gonna revisit it, and if it, you know, what happens in, you know, when did we say, January, February?
Anyway.
So what is gonna be our, I guess we should all think about, what is gonna be the deciding factor? What's gonna make the difference? That we have 6 people, 7 people taking it every day? What's gonna make the difference? What number works? Does it have to be 15? Because we're never gonna.
No, it has to be 35 in my book to make it work. And we're not going to see that for years to come, is my guess. But I mean, but this is something, this is a hard decision. This is a hard decision where we get a chance to say, we're not going to take the money that Rollinsford Grade School has saved and spend it to get 6 kids delivered to their door. And this is where this is why we get the big bucks. It's tough. It's a tough decision because those 6 kids are going to be really impacted. I understand that. It's a tough one.
$23 a day, you're saying?
That's the current, with, if it's 6 students a day, which is what the average has been since we reinstated it.
I mean, I agree that we have to really send that warning shot up, well before the next year starts and say, yeah, this is what we're looking at. And I think too that a lot of parents were right. They didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and we also kind of sold the bill of goods because we thought that there was no problem. Kids were getting on the bus. When you're hearing that kids are not getting on the bus because it's full.
I checked
And was that the case?
one time,
All right.
just like I checked the bus routes. There's no bus route that's an hour and a half. It's an hour tops.
We'll discuss that later.
I mean, maybe we'll, it's garbage in, garbage out.
So we're coming up against time. I don't want to rush people. I would recommend that we take it out of the budget. And that gives people, and we make it a warrant
Next year?
and that we make it a warrant article for next year. That would be my suggestion, but we can decide that, we don't have to decide that this evening, because there's a lot to think about perhaps.
You mean we take it out of the 17, 18?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, the 17, 18 budget we're talking about right now. We have never budgeted money for the way bus, ever.
That's what I thought. That's why I was like,
So-
I don't think it's in.
That's
You're right.
right, we never have, but this
So
is
it's not,
something
it's
that.
not in there.
But it's in the 17.
It's in the 17, 18
So
budget.
that's what Julie's saying.
At the moment, it's in. So we're coming up against time.
We need another budget meeting, as
Yes.
I'm not sure.
So I just want to make sure, on Zoom version 3, you might take this out.
I don't know if we have enough consensus on that yet. Do we?
I think we need to talk about it. I would suggest we should talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I'm comfortable taking it.
Okay. All right, so let's look very quickly for another meeting, as quickly as possible, right?
Can we meet on Thursday, December 1st?
What time?
We could do a budget meeting at 5:30.
5:30 would work for me.
Yeah. Tom, is that a yes?
Hold on.
5:30 is
Yeah.
Does that work okay for
here,
people?
you're here, or that's your office?
We can do it here. Well,
Yeah.
tell you what works better for us, but it would be fine here.
Can be here? All right.
Well, it doesn't matter to me. because
Here.
Oh, that, yeah. Well,
Oh, basketball.
I'll
We
give
can
you
always
a
make a classroom.
yeah.
Jim won't be ready for basketball.
Okay, so
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
we can
It's
be
almost-
here.
It's the one hoop game. It's a new game.
Yeah, it's a good game.
James Naismith had nothing.
Well, we only have a half-size court anyway.
All right, so, doesn't everybody know who James, didn't everyone go to spring?
Of course, absolutely.
Volleyball was also. All right, so we'll meet then, will give us a chance to talk over some things, look at things. Maybe we can actually have a whiteboard and talk about some of it, and talk about warrant articles and sort of put everything in perspective.
And hopefully that would finalize the budget,
I would hope
because
so,
we're
because
going to the budget
we're
committee on
presenting to
the...
the budget committee 2 weeks after that, so.
Okay.
that day, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much.
Okay, excellent.
We're going to take a 2-minute break.